Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of Wand of Whispers. This is, or was supposed to be, an FFA or initially Warcraft 3 podcast, and we turned it into an FFA show that's live on Twitch. So we can have you in this. And my guest today, Dovekie. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
So initially we were supposed to be three, but we lost Alien on the way. He will join probably in a few weeks from now. So it's just the two of us today, and we thought it might be interesting and fun to just talk about FFA and some topics that are always interesting and that are always discussed, and also some of the former FFA times that you may have been part of and I haven't. So interested to hear from you. You want to quickly introduce yourself for the ones that don't know you?
Yeah, hey, my tag is Dovekie. I started playing free for all maybe, I don't know, like 6 years ago or something. Do you remember Ugri Lanen? Yeah, you probably know him.
Yeah, I do, but it's like he left before I joined.
Yeah, so he was making he made this free for all bot, and I don't know what motivated me to like try it out, but there was no ladder or anything like that. It was just this bot on Battle.net hosting games, and um, I don't know. I started playing a few, and before I knew it, I'd probably played like 500 games within a couple months. Um,
That's crazy. So it must have been like between 2014 and like 16, something.
yeah, I think maybe a little earlier. I think it was like 2013. It was I was getting I had to get like surgery in my sinuses, and I couldn't go out and like do anything for like 3 weeks. And I remember I had a laptop. I just literally played FFA for like, I don't know, like a month and a half straight, and kind of just fell in love with the game mode. Um, so yeah, I've played a lot back then. There's no ladder or anything, but a ladder came later, and there's probably like 2 3 years where I played it a ton, and was always joining in tournaments and stuff and trying to climb the ladder. And I don't know, I just the amount of time I played it was pretty insane. So I still think that I could challenge most people in terms of like free for all experience, just with sheer number of hours invested into it.
Yeah, I think especially when it comes to FFA, like this experience really like counts a lot. And it seems like at least you're perceived these days, at least that's my impression, more like a strategical someone who invested a lot of time into strategy, and someone who played a lot of like ladder FFA and that kind of stuff, but is not as active anymore in competitive FFA, so FFA Masters League. Certainly. So how did it change over the years? Like, did your interest shrink?
Yeah, so well, you can't like just do something forever, or maybe you can. Um but so like lately I've been playing I've been joining like solo tournaments and leagues and playing a lot more one versus one. I've been doing pretty good. I've been doing pretty decent. Um but there's something about like competitive free for all that I love free for all in like a chaotic ladder sense, but when you start getting into competitive games, I just don't think it makes sense. Like it's not as fun for me, and just the structured format is just so like contradictory to the like play style of a free for all game, at least from the perspective that I see it, that I could never get into that. So I would play a lot of ladder, but as there are always problems with the ladder bot and like the way it was being run. And so I would try and join like the tournaments and stuff, and I wouldn't even be like motivated because you to wake up and like play the game. Let's say we scheduled the game and I had, because everyone's in Europe, I'd have to wake up at like 6 to play it. Like it just never interested me enough to play it in that sort of way.
I
I
see.
always like
Yeah.
the anonymous ladder
Okay.
way more.
Yeah. So it's on one hand, yeah, obviously like time zone is a thing and makes scheduling a bit more difficult. But do you feel like just from a structure perspective when it comes to FFA Masters League matches in particular, you are trapped in this structure like within the game where it's basically just the straight up one-on-one and then it's like the balancing three-way, like is that what you consider to be like less chaotic than ladder matches?
Oh yeah, I can't stand it. Like it literally drives me crazy. I I don't know. I'll do really well in like in a one versus one situation because I can micro pretty decently, and like you said, I'm a strategic player, so I'll like hit people with a timing push, or I'll play unfair or in a way where I can just hammer someone in a one versus one, and then the game gets into like this three-way situation, and it's just ugh. Like it just puts a bad taste in my mouth. People start like whining and complaining, and then the guy that I almost killed is pissed off at me and like is like cheesing me the rest of the game or something. And it's not like that happens sometimes. That's like every single game. It's like
No.
it's like the recurring theme of it. And it to me that's in stark contrast versus like an 8-player free for all, which you don't know who the heck you're playing. You don't know who's good or who's bad, or you don't know, like you might want to not attack anyone for 30 minutes. You might want to rush 5 different people. You might get teamed by 3 people at once, and then everything like it just the structured format of it I think is so contradictory to the nature of the game that yeah, I could just never I could never fall in line with the um
Yeah,
with
yeah.
like the FFA Masters format.
Yeah, no, I see your point, and there's definitely a beauty about 8-way in particular, where you still have like some way to grasp like the entire map and all players, but it's not like it's still big enough to really have total chaos. On the other hand, I also think it got a bit better in 4-way FML matches where that people, and I think that was a major issue in, I'd say, between season 27 and season 29, that players pieced in 4-ways. I think once you get into the 3-way, it's tricky to not have a balancing 3-way if you play with 2 other players that understand the mode and understand that they will not really have a chance if they just do certain stuff. So and I'm not necessarily sure that's really impacted by Manip. So I think it would be kind of the same, or at least the no chat games that we had felt kind of the same, and you also had to balance somehow.
Yeah, I don't think people take the problem seriously. I think it's a real issue when you all know each other and it gets to a three-way. To me, skill becomes completely arbitrary, and chat is a primary force in such a game. And a lot of people like that about that mode. I mean, you'll ask them what they like about free for all, and they'll explicitly tell you that is what they like. That kind of human interaction, the chat, what's going on in like terms of balance of power in that three-way, and trying to create a situation in which maybe you're weaker but you can still come out on top just through the use of language, for example, or manipulating people's emotions, or um, lying. Definitely a lot of deception, and that's what they really find enjoyable about the game mode. um,
You think they do? Like I'm not sure that. Like I think people see it as a way for, yeah, a way to achieve victory in some cases, especially if you have weaknesses in like micro related era. So I personally used way more mana when I started, and it became a bit less. I still think it's totally interesting that you can use different ways to really achieve stuff in FFA, but I don't necessarily think it's like like it's surely not joyful for enemies.
Uh-huh.
But I see the sense or the point of no chat games and like previous TBR events and some special modes also. I think in FML it was proof that it's interesting, but I'm not sure that entirely changes games. Like it makes them maybe more enjoyable for people who really dislike Manip, but I'm not sure that would change the entire outcome of a match.
Yeah, and I don't have an answer. Like I don't know what I don't know the system that would make it perfect. I don't think it can be perfect. I mean, you look now and so many games are coming out that are free for all. Like you have PUBG and Fortnite and all these games that just completely blew up. And what they are is just big free for all games.
Yep.
And uh, you kind of see the same problem where um, it's hard to find like consistency. Now, some players are so good that they can find success and consistency, but um, man, there was like a 10 or 8 season period where like a different person won every single season, and that just felt so arbitrary for me. Like, what is the best player? And, like the best player can lose, and the best player does lose. And I'm not saying I what like oh I was the best player in this game and I deserved to win it, because I don't think I did very well, and I probably only played like 3 FML matches in my life, or like 5. um
Yeah,
and when
it's
I when I would lose those games, I wouldn't like attribute it to, I don't know if I'd attribute it to bad luck per se, rather than playing bad, because in any given game you can see a million different mistakes that you make, but it does have this arbitrary nature to it, to who wins a game. And that's kind of what I liked about ladder, is you just play like 100 games and you can see who comes out on top after that.
Yeah, I think there are advantages to anonymous games on ladder if you have enough players of a certain skill level. On the other hand, when it comes to competitive FFA matches, I think it's interesting because on one hand, good players manage to win a very high share of their matches consistently, and on the other
On
hand,
ladder or
no, no,
on the
in
FFA?
competitive in FML. Like
Uh-huh.
if you look at the scoreboard of this season, you will see that the players that made it to the very top are players that are very good in FFA, and players that I would have put as favorites from the very beginning. So players manage to win if they are good. On the other hand, as you pointed out correctly, I think it's there can be a disadvantage of being good. So yeah, you need to. I think it's on one hand something you need to overcome. Like you need to be even better, because if you are if you reach a certain skill level, people might be so afraid of you that they may team you just prematurely for yeah
Well,
creeping wall.
so
Yeah,
Magadansky.
sure. Yeah.
When I first started playing free for all, he would destroy me all the time. And I learned that when he was in a game of mine, this is back when I laddered, like I was going to lose that game to him. And so I structured the way I played and the way I chatted such that he could never win a game. And we probably played like 15, 20 games over, and he might not even remember this, but I kept count because I really wanted to beat him, because he would always beat me back then in like 2013, 2014. He did not win a single game that I was in for like 15 games straight. And that was precisely because when the game started, I structured, the way I talked and the way I played and the way I teamed around making sure he lost. And maybe you'd argue at that point he wasn't a better player than me, but I don't think I don't know. That seems like kind of a weird thing to argue. like just the way I decided to chat could force him to lose.
Maybe you're just a very good and underappreciated manager.
Or yeah, versus him at that specific, you know, um, time, maybe. I don't know.
But maybe
And
maybe it changed over the years. And also, like, and that brings me to my next question when it comes to like legends, like especially Magadansky and HTRT, which, I mean, Rek also, but he was active for a bit longer. Like, these were very, very good players, as we see in VOD still, and as we see when, like, someone like Noix touches the keyboard. Do you think in general the FFA, when you compare it to FFA around 2013, 14, or how do you think FFA changed in general, like playstyle wise? Do you think some of the some of the other legends or players back then are like glorified, or is it how did it change?
um, I'm not too familiar with free for all of the past couple years, so it's hard for me to comment on
Yep.
that. I do think when I started playing to maybe, I played for maybe 3 years or so very intensely, that it did change a lot, like the way it was played. Because people would talk about free for all in the past, and I'd go and watch, like these incredible players, like what was his name, Invincible Rice, was that it? Something like
Yep.
that. Um, and you'd go watch those, and they would get destroyed if they played like a player using strategies from like 2013. Like they would just get completely mowed over. However, um, I think those players would adapt pretty quickly. But um, yeah, I always thought like these, like all those players that you mentioned were just like way overrated. I didn't think anyone in the game mode was that good except for HTRT.
Who also had a
He
strong solo background, right? So that made him.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
He was the only one that I played that really felt different. Also lightweight. The way lightweight
Yep.
played was something special to watch. And you had very strong, consistent players. Sexy, um, like you said, Magadansky, DV, Rectify. I don't. Um, no AXX. He got better, so he was getting better when I was leaving. But I met him a bunch on ladder, and I almost never lost to him. And then the next season, or like I didn't play for like a year, and then it was the other way around. Like he almost always beat me, and then I think he continued to get better after I left too.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
People.
trying to.
Yeah, I think, well, in my head, as I was only joining the community in 2016, 17, I think, I always try to draw a line between like old school FFA and new school. And on one hand, we do hear like the legendary stories of certain players just destroying everyone. And I don't doubt that they are great players and would still be able to beat most of the currently active players. But on the other hand, I often see old school players that just, or people perceiving old school FFA as just sitting behind towers until you have reached like 20k gold count, and then you try to
Mhm.
build an army and just clash them. While today it seems way more volatile and way more like it's not that sitting behind towers anymore. Like there are very few players that really successfully do it.
Oh, I agree. I think the playstyle is way better now, and I've realized when I play, like if I go play a game right now, I can force the kind of game I want. Like if someone wants to sit behind towers for however long, like I'm gonna play in such a way that that's either not gonna work, or I'm gonna get like 9, 10, 10 heroes while they do that, and they won't be able to beat me. So it would be bad for them in multiple circumstances to sit behind towers. You can kind of like force the game that you want, and I think people do that. There are, I think, a weird group of people who like those like 3 hour games or those 2 hour games. I think most people would prefer a shorter game, at least not that long and draining.
Yeah,
And so
no,
people will be aggressive when they can. But on those older players, they were good for a reason. FFA is very complex and it requires adaptation. I think if some of those older players were to start playing now, they would be just as good because the strategies are different, but they'd figure them out and they'd adapt to them. And maybe there was a few one-trick ponies who had a specific strategy that worked, and they wouldn't be able to adapt as well. But I think most good free-for-all players would do well in any um, time frame of the game.
yeah. And there's always like I think that's interesting about this the size, like the size of a community. So it's not too large, so everyone knows. Like these legends are not that far away. So and there's always like a small chance that players return after like 3 years. They suddenly pop up and end up in FML matches again. But I think it's interesting, like to see how players play after they return. So and definitely interesting how like old play styles match up with the new ones. But I totally agree. Like it just takes time to adapt if you return, and to just get to know new players.
Yeah. Um, what I enjoyed, you were talking about kind of how I played. I don't think people liked my play style, and I got so much enjoyment out of that. Um,
You mean recently in
Whenever I
FML?
play a game, I always hear because
I think that's an
so
elf
what
thing. I think that's an elf thing. I think people appreciate like your play style and your skill, but it's just very difficult to really get appreciation these days if you play elf. Like no one, if you lose, you're just yeah, you're just bad, and if you win, it's your race. So that's like
yeah,
that's
is
elf.
Elf pretty strong right now?
Yeah, I mean,
How would they be rank ordered? When I was playing 4 or 5 years ago, it would have been considered to say human, orc, elf, then undead. That would be the order.
yeah, and if I look back and also at like the winning races of each FML season, human I think can be considered the strongest FFA race of all time by far, and still had such great and superior tools over such a long phase, and
Hmm.
I think it's still like Mass TP, Triple Human Hero, and New Gyros even are still considered very very strong, and also New Orb now. They got some nerfs, but still human I think still very very strong. But Elf caught up, I guess, with Tranquility. Despite the Chimera nerf, it's still very very strong. And the Tinker, as you completely as you predicted in your patch video, so you were I think the first one that realized like in the FFA context how strong that was going to be, and it turned out to be really really strong.
Do people? I haven't tried that much. Do people do the rockets?
Yeah, for sure. So it became my go-to combination, and really made FFA much more fun to me again after like having I had an alchemist phase, but transmute is just so bad for FFA games. So like whenever I see Tinker of whoever plays a Tinker, I'm happy about, and if it's if he chooses a Tinker over an alchemist. But yeah, Tinker became a very regular hero.
That's so cool. Oh man, I could talk about free for all forever. Okay, so let me run this by you. This used to drive me crazy. Um, it's no like secret that normal elf hero combinations were never as like strong as Blade TCSH or
Mm-hmm.
AM MK Pally. And you're saying right now that Alchemist is so bad for the game because of transmute. You mean that, and it's just kind of like just toxic and unfair sort of thing.
It's stalling games. Like people are not willing to spend their gold anymore. As soon as you have an alchemist level 6 out on the map, and a player who's willing to use it and transmute, and a player who can do it and won't get just teamed out for it. So and at the cooldown's just way too low, which makes it like it's just a waste of gold if you get certain units. So makes it very tricky, I think, and not healthy for FFA matches.
Okay, so you remember the strategy where you employ both Dark Ranger and Alchemist, so you get Charm and Transmute.
Irenicus
And
started to play that more recently again, and it's just so painful.
and it used to be, if you did that, it was like kind of a unanimous law that you team down the player who goes Dark Ranger and Alchemist, because the power level is such that it's not fair for the game to go on for however long against something like that, because they'll just destroy you because it's too strong to have both Charm and Transmute. That's like every fight there's like a 15 food swing.
Yeah, it still is. I'd say, like, I mean, that's at least it's something people, like good players, still say. Like, I will team the player out that plays that kind of hero combo, but eventually it's not like I don't often see a player being teamed out because of a hero combination. So it's sometimes, but it's more about like the hero strength in general. So I think Orc becomes like Orc with really stacked Blade Master has a much higher risk of being teamed out just because like it's
just
difficult.
Because it could attack you 8 times during one stun, and it's not fun to lose your hero to that.
Exactly. So it seems to be more of a risk for yourself if you play, or if you stack your Blade Master than playing Alchemist in general. But still, like from an observer perspective, Alchemist is really bad for the game. And even since he's quicker and more durable than Dark Ranger, I think Alchemist even more than Dark Ranger.
So my question is, do you think that, and I'm talking about Elf in particular, I think this combo only really works in Elf. If like I was playing Orc, I can't see not going Shadow Hunter and Torrent Chieftain. You can go Alchemist, you can go Dark Ranger, you can go Blade Master, but you still want TC SH usually. But do you think elves handicapped themselves for years not using that combo?
I wouldn't say so. I think, to be honest, that combo, once all players run out of gold, I don't think Transmute helps you to really sustain an army, and Transmute and Charm, unless you want to hide your army for half an hour until you have enough supply, doesn't really help you to get an army. And it's just not a good combo in Hero Arena. I'd say, like, it's still much weaker than others. And I think Elf's biggest strength is base race. And for base race, a combination with Tinker and or Panda is just much superior. So
yeah. So the more I played, the more I started to dislike the Panda. And so you're probably ranking that hero combo on the presupposition that you would use the Panda in conjunction with that duo of Dark Ranger, Alchemist. But if you use the Keeper, then you gain a lot more power on the map with Entangle and a heal.
So you mean in combination with Dark Ranger and Alchemist, or?
Yeah, DR, Alch, and Keeper.
I think it's just way too weak in air battles. Like you can't fight human well. You can't fight human is just really difficult to fight with Dark Ranger, Alchemist, and Keeper. Gyros became so strong, so it's difficult to fight. And also against undead, don't know. I mean,
no, not versus. You would destroy undead with that combo. It's much better than the Panda because you get silence, tranquility, acid bomb, transmute, charm, entangle.
I think it depends, because most active undeads have very quick hands with their dispel. So I started to dislike Dark Ranger a lot.
You don't. So when I watch elves
Uh-huh.
play, because I don't I don't want to arrogate myself to saying that I popularized the alchemist, but back when I played in 2013, everyone went demon hunter or they went dark ranger. I think Rectified made it very popular to play dark ranger, keeper, panda, and that's all anybody played. And if they deviated from that, it was Mog playing tinker first, or J33 playing tinker first, or you would play demon hunter. And
Yeah.
no one really played the alchemist, and so I spammed like tons of alchemist games. I'd go alchemist, panda, keeper every game, and it started to work really. Sometimes I wouldn't even get the keeper. I would just play those two heroes, and undead can't touch you once you get transmute, because you always anti-magic shell run and transmute the destroyer. um and I'd watch streams of other elves, and it was terrible to watch. They didn't know why they had the alchemist. It's like they saw someone winning with it, so they thought it was good, but like they couldn't even push a base. It was sad to watch. Um, if you play the alchemist right, the undead cannot make destroyers, and if you have so they can never dispel entangle. And
That's
if
yeah.
you have a dark ranger and an alchemist, they cannot make destroyers or frost storms. They're only allowed to make gargs. And
That's
that should
right.
be a
Yeah.
hard rule.
Yeah.
But
That's
you watch an elf play, they don't have the micro to do it. They can't simultaneously juggle all the things that they need to do in their mind. So it doesn't work. There's too many things going on. They have their hippogriffs, they have roar to worry about, they have entangle, they have acid bomb, they have charm, they have transmute, they have silence. It's too many things and they just can't do it. So
yeah. I think
it
it
doesn't work.
depends. Yeah, I think it depends, and not to forget that undead AOE became so much stronger with like the buffed swarm, so it
Mhm.
became and now also the additional speed of Gargs, movement speed, which makes it much easier for undeads to just kite, and so that can make it more difficult for elves to find a straight up fight. And as you correctly pointed out, I mean, having that combo, you don't necessarily want to fight because you just want to transmute charm. But I'm not convinced that it's stronger than some other heroes. Like if you have rockets, you are able to force a fight because you can you have this stun against Gargs. You have so it's just much easier, and good undeads have as Vivan correctly points out in chat, like the new sleep is crazy, like the new cooldown. So I don't necessarily agree. I agree it's a very annoying and very playable hero combo, but I'm not sure it's strong enough, and I think it just dies too quickly against some other races. And before you have Keeper level 6, and Tranquility, it's just very difficult to fight. It can be very difficult to fight, but it's not bad. It's not bad.
Yeah, so I don't remember who asked me. It might have even been you to sub for an FML game,
Yeah, was me.
and I was doing very well, and I don't remember who I killed, maybe Mog or someone, and I'm fighting who was the undead? Do you remember? Um,
Was it this season? No,
yeah,
was it this
it
one?
was like a month ago.
Yeah,
I'm
it
fighting one
was.
of the
Quest was it? It was, yeah.
yeah, fighting Quest,
Yeah.
who I normally would destroy in a micro battle. I don't think I'd lose to Quest. And he like the new the new invulnerability that they put on Tranquility. You can't use Tranquility in battle anymore because it destroys your anti-magic potion. So you don't get Tranquility versus the undead, which is super bad because the Gargs can beat your hippogriffs in such a case.
But you shouldn't forget that like the like the speed of the heal, it was also strongly increased. So even in the first 3 seconds that you get invul, you
You
will.
only get it for 1 second. They nerfed it.
You're
So the
right.
1 second
You're
of
right. They
invul,
nerfed it.
you
Yeah,
get
yeah,
40. I only got 40 health on all my
yeah.
hippogriffs.
Yeah, that's true. Like if an undead is keeping track of your keeper, it's definitely like it can be a nerf, but I still think I think Tranquility is still very, very strong, even if it's more easily cancelable now. If since you can't use anti-magic potion anymore.
Yeah, I think among very like high level micro versus high level micro, in that specific matchup, it's worse because you.
Yeah, I think ultimate. I still think like it has such a quick cooldown or such a low cooldown, and it heals so incredibly fast outside of fights also, and Tangle got stronger, so Treants got stronger. So I think Keeper is like one of the big reasons why elves are remaining to be that strong, and why elves became even stronger potentially, or perceived even stronger. I don't know. I think elf and undead are both fine and pretty close at the very top with human. I think undead still has the biggest issue, or has a bigger issue being base raced out of the game, as it's easier to base race an undead main than human and night elf mains. So
Yeah, but yeah, undeads do have their tools if they get infernal and death and decay.
yeah.
But that's pretty late game, and it still takes a long time to kill a human base.
Yep. Yeah, so that's still something that plays in favor of humans and elves. Orcs, like and that's also on the flip side, orcs' biggest weakness, like, and why we don't talk about orc being a strong race, since orc is so lumber reliant, so item reliant, and eventually, even if orc is super strong, has 20k gold, you can break an orc base more easily than other bases with 100 supply chimeras or 100 supply human. There's just no way an orc can really fight 100 supply humans straight up. So that
Is that why? Is that because the new gyrocopter change? Or...
Also, I think orc is just it's orc has the least cost efficient anti-air, I'd say. So orc always needs, like, it costs orcs a lot to like transition from ground to air, from air to ground. So it's way less easy for them to really react, and I think that makes them it makes it pretty tricky for orcs. So an orc with just 5k gold can be like, can't really transition anymore. So it's easy counterable by enemies.
Are there no strong orcs right now?
I'd say there are players that can play orc well, but also I must say, like, many orc players have a weakness of not being like the biggest tryhards late game. I'm not sure if that like correlates with their race, but it just I see orcs getting many free wins. Like in many games, there are orcs that just bulldoze all enemies, and then they win games, especially in-house. But when it comes to competitive FFA, it's just very difficult, or it seems very difficult for orcs to really close the game and win, because it's just, yeah, they're just more, yeah, their bases can be killed much easier.
I also think orc has a pretty freaking high skill cap too, and if you're not at that, it can be difficult to fight a good elf or a good human, because those armies are a little bit more attack move. You just kind of worry about the heroes, but with orc you have so many casters that you have to cast their spells, and you have to worry about positioning, and you have to save your wyverns, and you have heal waves, and you really need to be paying attention to more variables than a night elf or a human has to be paying attention to.
Yeah.
And you're not as durable. But if you do pay attention to those things, it could be pretty freaking terrible.
For sure.
To play against that orc.
Yeah, I just looked through the list of the 21st matches of season 30 that's ongoing, and we do have two victories, like three victories of orc players two victories of orc players in 20 matches, and these two matches were with 3 orc players each. So it's yeah. So it's I think in general you can say Orc, as you correctly pointed out, has a very high skill cap. I think it's really fun to observe good Orc players, and there's a lot you can do with this race, but it's just very weak late game without gold. Like there are not as many ways to get an advantage as Orc compared to other races. And it's always a trade-off between, like, you on one hand, Blade Master is still very strong, or very strong again with the new old crit. So that definitely made things easier again for Orc. But on the other hand, Orcs, like, I also like the idea of Orcs to try other heroes, like FS or Alchemist, but you just lose even more. Like, Blade Master has some advantages that no other hero can really get you late game. So it's difficult. And as you correctly pointed out earlier, like, you need to have SH and TC almost every game. So
Yeah. Oh, the Blade Master does so much more than people think. People just think of him that he deals high damage, and that's just so wrong. He he brings a lot to a game. I think he's better than both the Torn Chieftain and the Shadow Hunter. Most people would disagree with that, but I think the Blade is Orc is what brings Orc to the top. And I don't think that's self-evident. I think a lot of people would argue against that, but that's what I think. That's what I
yeah.
believe.
Which brings me to my last topic, I think, in general, and it's something maybe we touched a bit on already, but in general, do you think balance is like, I think that's part of the beauty of FFA, that it's partially auto balanced, because there is another dimension to balance in FFA. It's not just a straight up fight. So isn't that an advantage also?
I actually don't like the auto balance at all. Um, I I think races have their strengths. For example, Undead used to be the rush race,
Yeah.
Like Undead is very strong before 30 minutes into the game. They're probably the strongest. You can get out 300 food, and you can get your heroes pretty maxed out once you get level 3 Lich and level 3 Dreadlord. Um, you can get a very maxed out Undead earlier than the other races. And then, using that early game advantage, you can get some pretty powerful things. You can get level 3 Nova, you can get Infernal, you can get a high level DK, you can get Death and Decay, which I think is underrated. You could get um, just this insane movement speed and map dominance and control and a lot of money. So I think I like the fact that you can take the advantages that your race offers you on, especially on certain maps, um, and use that to carry you to victory. I don't like the perpetual balance of power where, because you're the weakest race, then you're less likely to be teamed and you're a better bargaining chip for other people. You're like a tool to team down other people, which is kind of what Undead used to feel like. And let's say Orc, let's say Orc had 887 heroes and 20k gold. They're so strong that everybody needs to team them down. I don't like that. I I think I think that's like looking at it at the wrong resolution. I think you had to do something and beat the Orc before that point, where they didn't get to such a powerful stage in the game where they had, where now they can't lose anymore unless they're teamed, because Orc is weak the first, 30 minutes of the game before they get all that. Not weak, but weaker than Elf or Undead, for example. Um, yeah, I understand the need for the teaming, but I think all the tools exist within the game to not need to have that balance of power, so to speak.
But how would you end like a three-way if there would be no balance of power?
Yeah. I I think the as little three ways as possible. The less, I think it's an evil that you can't deal with. Um, apart from reducing the frequency at which it occurs or adding in some external variable. Maybe I look at that. I look at the three-way as terrible. It's terrible for the game. I think it ruins what would make free for all amazing. Is the fact that three ways can, last ages. Um, and when people give arguments for the importance of three ways, they're not very sound arguments, and you can pick them apart and just show the opposite perspective of why what they're saying is true in some circumstances and not true in others. And I think whatever you can do that limits the frequency of three ways, or their impact on the game, is all the better. And whether that's starting a free for all with 8 players and having everyone anonymous, and like you don't even know who's in the game before it starts, or not having chat, and most people would disagree with me on that one, but
I'm not
I
sure
don't
about the
know.
chat thing. I think the chat thing is ultimately many people think it's an okay thing to not have chat. I think not. I don't think the majority of players necessarily needs or wants to keep chat in games. On the other hand, I think it's just difficult. Like on one hand, you don't want to have a free win after 20 minutes. On the other hand, you somehow need to get from 3 players or 4 players to just 1 remaining player. So unless you like, you must find like a way in between. I totally agree. Like
So
yeah,
here, I want to
yep,
pick one thing apart with what
sure.
you said that I think is really important that people don't consider. So let's say because there's no chat, one player is going to get a free win after 20 minutes. I think that needs to be addressed, because it's like the idea of
I didn't
it's
say
like
that. I think it's a matter of scouting, which many people don't do sufficiently. But if you scout, I just don't see how a no chat game, like if everyone knows it's a no chat game, people will find a way to um, to to agree on peace in game by putting items on the floor, whatever. But there will be peace still. So I just don't see how no chat could be a solution to a 3 ways, and how a 3 way in general, as long as it exists, is not having some balancing to it. Like how
yeah,
would you play a 3 way otherwise?
it'll happen no matter what. You'll still get three ways. I agree with that, and you'll still get people piecing each other. Because I remember playing with like Korean people who wouldn't speak English at all, or even just talk. Period. They wouldn't even say like yes or no or stop teaming me, and they you can communicate. Like you can just feel, and you're unable to articulate what it is you're feeling. Maybe you could articulate it, but it's more of a feeling that, okay, I'm going to stop teaming you down right now and start attacking the other guy. But even when it's like that, it feels so much better than than the than the whining and the deception and the, anyways, what I wanted to say about because even if you didn't bring up that argument, other people have, where some people are just going to get a free win. That'll only happen a few times. Like people will get a hint and play in such a way to scout better
Yeah.
or be more aggressive. I personally think the FFA mode has an insane amount of potential. I've heard a lot of people call it like a niche community. Um, I think that's more by nature of its location in like the Blizzard, like in the actual client, than it is the enjoyment to play the game. Because I think possibly more people would play free for all than they'd play solo if it was at the forefront.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like it has, like may take it some time to understand it and to see the beauty in it, but I just think most people just are not willing to invest an hour into one game, so they prefer to have these quick 10-minute matches, and in general, I getting back to your previous point, just to end that, I think on these, I think it's an interesting idea. Also, something Vivan just wrote in chat, that you have the initial one-on-ones and then one final one-on-one, which would be the ultimate solution to prevent three ways, right? So you just have two one-on-ones and then like a final one-on-one. But I just don't see how to overcome the time leave that like it would turn into a free win if the other two players are not piecing, right? So I think it's a tricky thing to solve. So yeah.
Yeah. So you did bring up people aren't willing to invest the time. I've always been for imposing a time limit. I wish, I could probably do a better job. I mean, I'd like to communicate with maybe if I can get in on the beta of Reforged, I can try and help be a voice for the FFA community. But if they could bring free for all up higher in the client and allow it to have 6 to 8 ways and impose some sort of time limit just for ladder's sake. Maybe tournament you don't have to worry about that, but at least for ladder, put a time limit of like 45 minutes on it. That might sound short to you. I don't think it's that short.
How long? Sorry, say again.
For like 45, 50 minutes.
But that's pretty short. I think 1 hour. Yeah,
maybe an hour.
Yeah, I rarely have ladder matches that last that long, but
I mean, I would look through my replay folder, and for ladder, and I would play like I'd have 20 games in a row, and like the longest one would be like 42 minutes or something.
Right.
So I don't think it's that unreasonable.
But so why would you because I personally think at least in within the FML environment, people are complaining or were complaining about match length a lot, and apparently we had a few of these 5 to 6 hour matches, which were not very healthy to watch or stream. But
yeah, you guys are insane.
Yeah, 6 hours was
literally insane.
So obviously there are some solutions to like prevent that, like avoid certain maps or ban certain maps, ban islands on most maps. But this season, like the average length of matches is around like less than 1.5 hours, which I think to some degree is a length that allows matches to unfold. So I think matches that last less than 1 hour are usually not played out very well, or are not like I don't think players can try hard and try to win really within just an hour of time. So it's basically having a timer at even for the 45-minute mark just turns it into straight up victory of the player who was the most dominant one from the 10-minute mark. And
yeah. And that's why you probably couldn't go with my idea, because I am that aggressive player who likes to just go smash people and sit at 100 food. And there's probably a happy medium. I don't know what it is. Maybe it is map dependent. Maybe each map has to have a specific variable that says this one's 50 minutes, this one's an hour and 10 minutes. It's not like it's a difficult thing that I'm suggesting to do. It'd be extremely easy to implement. So I would like to, if I could, if I'm in on the beta, really try and put in a voice for free for all and try and get like a ladder system such that like the community can see an influx of more players that could see the game mode and enjoy it. And it's like, oh, hey, you could actually experience everything that was intended to be in Warcraft 3. You could play all the heroes actually and use all the units and your tech tree and expand and kind of see all the ultimates of the different heroes and kind of like see everything about the game. I think people would really enjoy that, being able to do all that. But you don't even get that in 4 versus 4 games. You don't get it in 1 versus 1 games. And there's a lot left in Warcraft 3 than what people experience just in whatever game modes they currently play. So, I mean, I think that'd be really cool if we could kind of like get it out from like this niche community, because it looks like free for all game modes are like the most popular, especially with like like Fortnite and stuff coming out. Like there's
Yep.
something about it.
I totally agree. I think that's an interesting development in the in the general gaming industry to see all these FFA games basically, and I think there's we can improve just showing that beauty to more people. I guess we will see with Reforged. It will all come down to the number of players that return to the game or will join the game. And the more players there are in the overall player pool, the more players will queue up for FFA matches. And I think ladder still is the way to learn about FFA and starting to ask yourself why other players are managing to win continuously or repeatedly while you aren't. So I think that's a way to go still.
Yeah, and my argument would be it's also the ending place of free for all. I think that's also, and many people disagree with me on that one, but I think it's the best place to learn and the best place to find the best free for all games as well is ladder. I think ladder is the best type of free for all you can get.
Yeah, I don't agree right. I don't agree right now, but I definitely think there is a beauty to anonymous FFA if the skill level of players is sufficient, which currently just isn't the case. So there's just the big requirement. But yeah, we all hope it's going to be different again, and we like apparently the beta seems to be on the way. So interesting to see, how that goes. And on that note, I think we do have 60 minutes behind us, and unless you have any other questions.
Cool. Yeah, I could talk about free for all forever, but this is pretty good. I think we hit some cool topics.
Yeah, we can repeat it. So yeah, that was very, very. I hope entertaining for the viewers also. I really liked it. It was super interesting for me to just have this discussion with you, and I guess if you also, you're invited obviously to join me again. Then we'll have another episode soon.
Cool. Well, yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. And we will upload this to YouTube and also post the audio files somewhere. So we don't know yet where, but for everyone who listened to this before ever playing FFA, check out our ffamasters.com website, join us on Discord, and play in-house matches later with us, whatever you like, and follow this channel. And on that note, I will play our epic music again, as I did in the very beginning. Have a good one. Thank you.